Hi, in this video, we want to discuss flipped learning, okay, what it is, and more importantly, what that's going to look like in our classroom. So the question, what is flipped learning, can be answered by looking at what the Flipped Learning Network says about it. I'm going to read this definition, but I really want to emphasize one particular part of it. Flipped learning is a pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space, and the resulting group space is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides students as they apply concepts and engage creatively in the subject matter. The part I really want to emphasize is that the group learning space is moved to the individual learning space, and the individual learning space is moved to the group space. That is, you can think of group space as where we are together as a class. What we would normally do in class, that's when you move to the individual learning space. That is when you're at home. So what we normally do in class is going to happen at home, and what would normally happen at home is going to happen in class. That changes a lot of things. It allows our class time to be something totally different. So we'll talk more about that in a second. To be considered flipped, the Flipped Learning Network says that 4 things are required, and we're not going to touch on these, but if you do want to read about what these are, you can go to flippedlearning.org and see how they describe it. How is this going to look in our classroom is the more pertinent question. Okay, there are really 2 components, maybe 3, we'll see. Before class, to begin with, there's an introduction to material. Okay? That is, you are going to be exposed to the concepts we would normally be talking about in class before class. So there is an introduction material through pre-class work. Specifically, it's a guided pre-class sheet that I've got that's posted to my website for each section, and it includes videos and links to textbook readings and potentially some other things as I find things on the web. So first, you will be exposed to the material, okay, through watching a video, reading, whatever you prefer, honestly. The next component is going to be pre-class questions. There's going to be a Google form that's embedded on the website next to that pre-class work where you answer a few questions. Now, the thing is, a lot of these questions are not going to have yes or no answers. They're not going to have even a correct answer sometimes. So there's a little bit of gray area there. If you make an effort for the pre-class questions, that's great. That's what I'm looking for. I want you to try to understand the concepts and answer those questions. Because remember, you just got an introduction to the material. You didn't get a full everything you're going to learn. You just got an introduction. Okay. Now we move to in-class, okay, where we have an in-class quiz. A brief in-class quiz will happen over those basic objectives, which I'll point out that in a second. But there are objectives here, and some of them I'm going to label as basic objectives, and it'll be clearly marked in the guided pre-class work which ones the quiz is going to cover. Now, one thing I really want to point out and stress is that these 2 categories, pre-class questions, in-class quiz, those are not meant to catch you per se. Okay, they are really meant to guide your work and give you motivation to get that work done. So I'm looking on pre-class questions, I'm really looking for a good faith effort. Did you try? Did you answer good? Did you answer in a good way? Okay, did you answer clearly? Those sorts of things. The in-class quiz is going to be based off of the pre-class work. Okay, what you looked at in the textbook or what you watched in the videos. It's based off of that. Those questions are not going to be extremely difficult. They're aimed to see, did you watch? Did you watch and did you understand? Okay, so pre-class questions are really asking, did you watch and did you comprehend some of the big ideas? And the in-class quiz is saying, did you watch the videos and did you, or can you use some of those skills from those objectives? Okay, after the in-class quiz, we move on to a Q&A session, or question and answer session. Now that is going to be based off of your answers to the pre-class questions. I'm going to look at the answers that you all my students put in, and we'll launch from there. We'll go, okay, well, it seems like this was a little bit unclear, or this could use some extra time spent on it talking about it. So we'll have a short, I don't know really how long it'll be. It depends on how many questions you guys have. But we'll have a question and answer session. that leads us into activities and assignments that we might have. That may be homework. That may be just we spend time some days working on problems and getting experience with the topics. That could be something that's a little more, I don't want to say fun, but a little more applicable. Okay, we might have something that's a little more applicable and hopefully something that makes the concepts make sense to you. Now, the third component is going to be after class. Third big chunk here is after class. And that is, if there's an assignment or an activity that you don't finish during class, then of course it's got to be done sometime. So it'll be on you to finish that after class. Now, prior to the next class, this cycle will start over. So if you have an assignment, usually the deadline will be that day, because you need time to begin in this section again for the next chunk of material. Now, the goals that I have for you, the student, really have three big ones. One is self-regulation. That means that no one is over your shoulder saying, do this. At your job, in the workplace, wherever you work, if you work, no one is going to say, hey, I need you to do step 1 for this project, and then I need you to do step 2. No one's going to do that. You're going to be given a task, a goal, and you have to sort of work on it bit by bit to accomplish that goal. How we're going to work with this is the pre-class work. With that, you have a choice, okay? You are in charge of when and where you learn these concepts. You don't have to do them in the classroom. You don't have to do them at a certain time. As long as before class, you do have a deadline, but it's a very wide window. Okay. You have a choice. As long as the pre-class work is finished within, say, an hour before class, that's when I'm going to probably be looking at things. As long as it's done by that time, then you're in good shape. Next, we do have choices, I already mentioned, but you have a choice as to how the learning happens, because I'm going to have links to things on the web. I'm going to have videos that I've recorded. I'm going to have the textbook. You have a choice as to how you do this. If you prefer listening to someone explain something and watching someone explain something, then the video is the place to go. If you prefer reading about it, the textbook's the place to go. You have some choice in this. So keep that in mind. And that is an important thing to learn how to deal with as you continue in life. The next big goal is a strong grasp of algebraic concepts, because algebra class or calculus class or statistics class would be very poor if we didn't have a goal of having a strong grasp of those big ideas. Now, how we're going to accomplish this is through the use of basic and advanced objectives. Basic objectives are going to be clearly marked in the guided pre-class work, but they're going to be things that are well within your grasp to accomplish just through a video or through the textbook. That's not to say they're necessarily always easy, but they are the things that if you come to class with an exposure to those things, then the rest of class is going to go very smoothly. That's where the advanced objectives come in. We're going to spend most of our time in class discussing the advanced objectives and working with those skills. The quiz will give you a good time to know, do I get the basic objectives? And if not, then we have the freedom, we have some time in class likely to work one-on-one or in a small group and discuss those things and get those concepts down very well. Now, one thing I haven't marked here is something called active learning. We want to increase active learning time. It's been proven, I say proven, there's much evidence for it, through lots of research and personal experience, mine and other instructors' experience, that the more time you do something, the better you feel about it, the better grasp you have. So active learning is really you doing something, not listening, not just listening or reading, but you doing something. So we want to increase the amount of time that you spend doing mathematics, not just listening to someone else do mathematics. So by increasing the learning time, we are giving ourselves, or by increasing active learning time, we are giving ourselves the ability to have time to practice new skills with the instructor present. You don't have to go through me. You can learn things just through the videos if you'd like, but you have that choice and we have the time, and we can also decrease direct instruction time. That's the time that I spend talking and lecturing at you. All right, now for our final step or our next steps, check out my website. If you're here on the first day page, go back there and check it out. If you're here for later in the semester, refreshing on how class works, check out my webpage and you can go to your course page.